Welcome in to Bears Weekly, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
Time is flying, and I don't know about you guys, but that's a good thing because we're one step closer to Ben Johnson's Bears taking the field again. I'm always joking about it's always football season, but you know, that seems to be the case. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer and former Bears quarterback Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak. Coming up tonight, we visit with one of the new Bears, defensive back Cam Lewis, a free agent addition to the Bears secondary. And from our Bears Etc. podcast, episode 220, Manti Te'o joins us from NFL Network and Good Morning Football, the former Notre Dame star and Chicago Bear. Dan Barilli, Jordan Tredup, and Katie Fox, our producers, Kendra Smith and Jake Lippman in our studios at ESPN 1000 tonight. The executive producer of the Bears Radio Network, Eric Ostrowski. It is rookie minicamp weekend on Friday and Saturday. They check in today. And you'll get some rookie tryout guys, probably some veteran tryout guys, some undrafted players. And that'll be fun to watch. Probably not a whole lot, right, guys? Because it's about fundamentals and technique and learning the Bears' way right now, Tommy.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting to watch the rookies come into the building to get the big picture of what professional sports is all about and the academic requirement of how they have to carry that on the field. But when you brought up the beginning of the Chicago Bears season, I probably haven't been this excited for the offseason program leading into training camp in a long time. Not only the success that they had last year, it's also about where this is going in the continuous Ben Johnson era development. So I'm excited to hear and see how this thing kind of starts moving along. And so I'm excited for every element of Bear football.
It's going to be more ramped up, you know, and you're going to be talking, Jeff, to Cam Lewis, a young undrafted free agent safety that added to the Bears. And I guarantee you there's going to be more competition across the board for the entire team. Why? Because a lot of the undrafted free agents, hey, man, I like what Chicago's got going on. And they're very talented young players that are now choosing their destinations. And so there'll be more competition in there. I think it's going to be healthy. It's how a team that laid a foundation last year is going to grow here in year two with all these increased competitive, talented players added to the roster.
Yeah, you can't discount the undrafted route. I mean, yes, Cam is one of those guys. I went back and I just did a little thing on, asking AI who are the most famous undrafted free agents in Bears history. Of course, Jay Hilgenberg is at the top of the list, 7-time consecutive Pro Bowler, should be in the Hall of Fame, and he's certainly the most decorated. But you go back, Ed Sprinkle from the 40s and 50s, Brian Piccolo, Tommy Waddle, of course, Roosevelt Taylor from the 63 champions. You've got Tom's teammate Mike Tomczak, of course. Of course, Tommy Waddle, Robbie Gould, and then on the current roster, Tyson Bagent, Jack Sanborn, T.J. Edwards has had a great career entering with the Eagles out of Wisconsin, Josh Blackwell on the Bears, Theo Benedette, and last year, Jade Walker. So you two gentlemen were drafted, so not where you wanted to be drafted. So you probably feel like undrafted free agents when you didn't get the higher selection. Tommy in the 4th round, Jimmy in the 6th round.
I think Jim and I were both fortunate to be drafted. We know what team picked us and where we were going to go from day one of the programs at that point in time. But it still doesn't matter if you're first round a free agent. Everybody comes in there with a fighting chance. And if those free agents that you just talked about prove their point throughout training camp and all the other elements that go into the evaluation process. So that's one thing I appreciate about free agents and the success of free agency is I admire the work ethic that they committed themselves to.
And I think, again, you got to have confidence that once you get your foot in the door, that you'll take care of the rest as a player. Whether you're an undrafted free agent, certainly the high draft picks are probably, they have the guarantees, as Tom and I well know, the first 3 rounders. But after that, as long as your foot's in the door and you feel that you're going to get an honest shake, you'll take care of the rest as a player. And I've always enjoyed that about teams. And you want to choose a team where you have a fair shot of getting on the field.
How about tryout guys? I remember Rashid Davis, who wide receiver, defensive back, and he winds up being on a Super Bowl team, catching a big pass in a big, important playoff game. And you're going to have some of those guys. I know. And then Olin Kreutz's son, Josh, he's going to get a tryout with the Bears, starting center for Illinois, great in the weight room, captain at U of I. Jai Williams, Big Cat Williams' son, who played at Kentucky, tight end turned defensive lineman, played linebacker at Quincy College, got his architectural degree. These guys are getting a little taste of Hallis Hall.
It's funny, Big Cat transfers from a defensive tackle to an offensive tackle and had the double-digit year career that he had. But, one thing about these guys, if you're really determined and you want to play football and you want to extend your opportunity, it's not necessarily only from the NFL. You can go to the UFL and you can get experience in the springtime and maybe give you those reps that you need in order to improve what your perceived deficiency is, whether it's strength and technique and that kind of stuff, and increase your value and try to give yourself another shot either here or somewhere else.
All right, coming up next, new defensive back Cam Lewis joins us. This is ESPN 1000 on the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly, a Chicago Bears production on the flagship home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow with Tom Thayer and Jim Miller. Cam Lewis coming aboard. He is a 7-year veteran out of the University of Buffalo, undrafted, as Jim alluded to in the opening segment. In 2019, he was utilized all over the Buffalo defense with snaps in the box, slot, free safety, even defensive line each of the last 2 seasons, and an excellent special teams player, backup nickel as well. Grew up in Detroit, had an affinity for some of the Detroit sports teams growing up. That leads us into our conversation with the veteran defensive back.
Only thing I can really remember is the Matthew Stafford and Megatron era. But I really wasn't too much into football growing up. I was a real baseball guy. With Derek Jeter, I was a Yankees fan, Derek Jeter. That's what I would spend my time doing.
What drew you to Derek?
He was from Upper Michigan, I think Lansing area, like East Lansing area. I believe I'm correct, but I was playing baseball. I used to play a lot of travel baseball. I played shortstop, and I just liked the way he approached the game, man. He got drafted super early, and I think one of those World Series, my dad was watching, and he had one of those home runs, and we had this picture framed, and he's doing this, running around the bases, and like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to be in that moment. So I was playing baseball until I obviously fell out of love with it and really picked up football. I fell in love with the game of football, what I can be, the different person I can be on the field. So, yeah, I'm glad I made the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, you sure know who to hitch your wagon to, a superstar like that. Yeah. So when did you play high school baseball, or did you shift to football in high school?
I played baseball. I played all the way up until my senior year that summer because I had to go, football, college, and start that journey. But I for sure played since I was 5 to 18. So.
Wow. Did you get recruited to play in college baseball?
No.
Okay.
It was at a point where it's like 10th grade year. I was like, okay, I don't really have fun playing baseball anymore. So I was still playing football as well, but I'm like, I really don't have fun playing baseball. But I always told my high school teammates, like, I would finish playing with you guys, create the memories, try to win a state championship. We never did, but it was still fun while I was doing it, though.
Well, it translates. I know coaches love players who did more than just one sport.
Correct.
And you were patrolling the middle of the defense, right, at shortstop, just like you are on the football field and those many different positions you play. Do you feel there's anything that translates from just seeing the game or your athleticism, your movement skills, agility, whatnot? Yeah,
because I played some center field too. So especially on the back end of safety, being able to go sideline to sideline, have some range back there. I don't know, you still need to have some speed. I had speed. I was a leadoff hitter, so I was trying to get on base and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff a little correlates, but I'm for sure grateful for my experience playing baseball.
And your versatility is certainly a calling card. This is a league where the expression of more you can do, and you're kind of living that, aren't you? And you got the perfect defensive coordinator. He loves guys that can do all that. I'm sure your conversations already with Dennis Allen and Al Harris are, man, this is what we like to do. We like to mix and match and come up with packages.
Correct, yeah. And I've had those talks already. And, like I said, I'm excited to be in this system, to be out here and help the team any way I can, playing safety, playing some nickel, playing some dime, whatever they need me to do, I'm able to do it and try to fill in and do the best job I can.
Heck, I looked up on Pro Football Focus. You even played on the edge a couple. You had snaps on the edge, so that was clearly either faking the blitz or coming on the blitz. How often did you blitz in Buffalo when you got on the field?
It depends, honestly. I blitzed enough to where they knew that I wasn't dropping in coverage all the time. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't want to have a tail. So we had to mix and match. So it was like every time you come in at dime, say for instance, he's going to play man-to-man coverage. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I can come in blitz to the B gap. I can come blitz off the edge. I can drop and do some zone coverage as well. So I'm just trying to mix and match everything just to keep, the offensive coordinators and quarterbacks confused.
Cam, one of my favorite plays in football is the corner blitz or, safety blitz because, first of all, with the Bears, the heartbeat of the defense, and for a while, for the last few years, it's been the secondary because they brought the thunder, they brought the juice, they had the mojo. There was a lot of swag in that secondary. Right. And I believe that while we always talk about the trenches, and you got to have the trenches to win in the NFL,
correct,
no question, but it's equally important to have that back swag back there. Do you bring that to the table?
I think I do, man. I'm not the most, I say outside of football, I'm not the most I'm going loud, flashy, but when I'm in between those lines, when I'm feeling the game, when I'm doing the right preparation, I'm having my good pregame music flowing, everything, I feel like I can just be my alter ego, I guess, another person and just let it all out. Because that's not how I'm usually am. So trying to bring that swag, trying to bring that physical aspect, to the back end. And, you want the trenches to be on fire to stop that run, but you need your back end to go and take that ball away. And last year, they did a really good job taking that ball away. So we're trying to continue that. And then, improve on a couple other things, talking to different coaches. But like I said, I'm excited, man.
What's the best hit of your career? One you remember?
It wasn't like a crazy hit. My first start at outside corner was versus Derrick Henry and the Titans. Went down there 2020. Very first play of the game. I tackled him from no gain.
All right.
That's a lot of experience. So yeah, that's always going to be, I guess, the best one so far. So yeah, we have time for some more.
Yeah. Well, key with him, don't get him any momentum because once he stops his feet, now he's in your yard. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, you know the tricks. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. No combine invite. How did that sit with you? Were you surprised? Were you not surprised? Or do guys not sweat that because you had plenty of pro days to get on the radar of NFL teams? But I know some guys are annoyed with that, and they keep that in the back of their mind.
It didn't bother me at all. Coming from, Buffalo, MAC conference, not a lot of guys are getting combine invites unless you're projected first or second round, in which I wasn't. I was projected 7th, undrafted. So I was just trying to do what I can do, with pro day training, trying to get in the best shape possible to where I have my pro day and I put the best product out I can. And then the Bills also had a local day, pro day as well. And I was able to do some drills in front of them coaches and took me to the bag, got some board work. And I guess I pressed them enough, to take a shot on me as an undrafted free agent. And then it was just, honestly, my determination and hard work is you guys are not going to cut me. I'm going to find my way to stick around. And it jump-started my career. I'm thankful for, having that route, that my process. It just led me to the man I am today.
Cam, don't you have to be stubborn in this sport?
Correct.
Be stubborn, man. Don't let anybody, whether it's on the field or off, you got to be stubborn. And you got to be a little bit selfish to get there.
Correct.
in order to be the teammate that you want to be as well.
You want to be, correct, yeah. You got to do those things. Unless not, it's not the sport for you.
Yeah, exactly. Al Harris has been through everything. Undrafted, like yourself. Small school. I don't call Buffalo a small school, but he went to a really small school, Texas A&M, Kingsville. Got cut, got traded, became an all-pro. He's one of the best DBs in Green Bay Packers history, and now is an excellent coach.
Yes.
Are you excited to learn from a gentleman like that who's going to challenge you guys to take the ball away? He's going to set goals every game. Yeah. I need 2, I need 3, I need 4 from the unit. So is that inspiring for you?
Yes, that was a big reason why I wanted to sign here as well, especially when I was getting the offers and having to talk with the coaches. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing my research myself. And I'm like, yeah, I really want to play for this guy. He's been teaching DBs how to be, great. Technique-wise, going to attack the ball. It's just somebody you want to play for, especially you watch from afar and see what the back end does, like taking the ball away, how aggressive they are. They're attacking it, they're hitting. They have great technique. It's like, okay, I want that coaching, If I can find a way to get that coaching, I feel like that would help my career and help my teammates wherever I am. So I'm glad I picked the right place.
Very engaging guy. Tom and Jim. And that's a very necessary piece to this back-end puzzle for Dennis Allen, having that veteran experience back there, Tommy.
Yeah, one thing I liked about Cam Lewis is when he talks about his commitment to baseball, and he was going to finish it in high school to stick with his teammates and try to win a state championship. It didn't work out, but it's commitment, and that's exactly what you need out of a guy that comes from the free agency market and now has success in the NFL. And as the word that you use, deployable, and he's a 3-level player. He can willing to play and come from anywhere. So I do think, as you mentioned, his baseball background gives him a little bit more variety, even when he talks about his skill at center field.
Well, playing shortstop, you can do a lot of things, and that's what he does. He's shown it in his, with his experience. And you mentioned the 7 years behind it and what he's been utilized at. Nickelback, dime. He's played center field. He's pretty much done it all. Special teams, he's covered there. So this is a guy who's probably undersized, but yet that typical chip on the shoulder type of thing, being an undrafted free agent, but has proven himself to be a solid player. Undersized, but he fights as tough as anybody to play a lot bigger than what his stature is.
All right, coming up next, we join the former Notre Dame star and one-time Bear linebacker Manti Te'o from NFL Network's Good Morning Football. This is ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer chatting about the Bears. It must be Bears Weekly.
Well, if it's Bears Weekly,
it must be the home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly with Tom Thayer and Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak. We had a great guest on Bears Etc. this week, episode 220. Check it out with Manti Te'o. Really great conversation about his journey from Notre Dame, where he was sensational. Won nearly every major defensive award: Maxwell, Lott, Bednarik, Nagurski, Butkus, Lombardi, runner-up for the Heisman in his senior year. Rare for a defender, of course. I kept thinking that's Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech. He was the 43rd pick of the Dolphins, and Manti was the 38th pick in round 2 in the 2013 draft by the Chargers. But he's a very excited man about the Chicago Bears. Tommy also leads him into the questioning with rookie minicamp starting this week.
So now you think of all these rookies that are getting ready to go to rookie minicamp. Do you have any advice for those guys from, Manti Te'o walking into a professional team? Some of these guys that come in with no introduction and you came in with play, everybody knew who you were. Mm-hmm. And you have any advice for these guys that are getting ready to go to rookie minicamp for the first time before they step foot on the field for the first time?
Well, going into rookie minicamp, I'll tell them that everything is being recorded. Not only their play on the football field as far as practice, the practice habits, how they walk down the hallway, do they pick up their tape, do they ask the trainers, with respect. Everything is being recorded, and so act accordingly, right? Like, don't be fake about stuff, because people can also see that, but understand that this is a job now. And everything is being evaluated. Now, the biggest advice that I would give them would be after rookie minicamp, find the veteran that is doing things at a high level and just be their shadow. Walk, do everything that they're doing. For me, it was Eric Weddle. When I got to the Chargers, I Eric Weddle took me under his wing and taught me what it meant to be a professional football player and everything that entailed, the extra work, the extra hours of studying, the workouts, and so just seeing him and Phillip Rivers work had such a tremendous impact on me in that transition. And so if I could give them any advice, it would be, number one, you're around a bunch of rookies for rookie minicamp, understand that everything is being evaluated, not just what you do on the football field. But then number two, when the veterans come in, find the veteran that has accomplished the most and be a sponge and be a shadow. And I think that should help them, with their transition to the NFL.
Bears are getting Dylan Thieneman back there with Kobe Bryant to start this next rebuilding of the Bears defense with Dennis Allen. How critical is that piece? I've been a safety fan my whole life. Love all those men you just mentioned. We admired the work in the division of Harrison Smith, but from your perspective and analysis, what are the Bears getting, and what can this mean to Dennis Allen in terms of pieces to the puzzle?
Well, you're getting a smart football player first and foremost, all right? And I think that's the attribute that you want, especially in a safety position, that in Dennis Allen's scheme, who I played under for 3 years when I was in New Orleans. He has a rush 4, drop 7. That's his thing. All right? And when that happens, there's a lot of communication that the safety needs to do with linebackers, with corners, with nickelbacks, whatever it is. There's a lot of communication there, whether he's running Tampa 2, whether he's running quarters, what technique are you playing? And so when you have a guy like Dylan, who is a cerebral player, not only is he cerebral, but he's very instinctual. That's the type of plays that you see Harrison Smith making. There's a type of plays that Troy Polamalu made the Hall of Fame for. Very instinctual. And I look at all the great safeties in the game today and in the past. They just had an instinct and a knack for finding where the ball was, knowing where the ball was going to be. And so when you have someone like Dylan coming from the University of Oregon, I think you get that caliber of player. And it's going to require a lot out of him, knowing that Dennis Allen requires a lot of his safeties. But to have Kobe Bryant there, who just won a Super Bowl, it's like that. There's a lot of comfort if you are Dennis Allen, knowing that your rookie is going to be mentored with somebody that has done it at the highest level.
And on the other side, you experienced a playoff game with the Chicago Bears in your short time. I'd like you to reflect on that experience quickly, but then what Soldier Field became in 2025 into 2026, the building literally shaking beneath our feet with these amazing comebacks, and Caleb Williams and where his next step is. So it's kind of a two-parter. Have at it.
Yeah, so that year was, I thought it was a great storybook ending for my story as a football player. We ended it in the playoffs in New Orleans against my former team. And so I got to play against a lot of my former teammates who I got very, very, very close with. And that was actually my first game that I played, because in 2020 they established the rookie practice squad because of COVID rules. That was the first time that you could have certain veteran players on a practice squad that could be ready in case somebody tested positive for COVID last minute. You could stick them in the game. I was on one of those. I was on that practice squad team for the Bears. Being back in the Midwest was so nice. Going to Notre Dame, Chicago is like a home away from home for Notre Dame. Everybody roots for the Cubs. They roots for the Bears back in South Bend. So it wasn't a place that it was foreign to me. I actually got to play at Soldier Field my senior year against the University of Miami. And so there was a lot of just history there for me. Now, when I look at the Bears last year, Caleb Williams, I don't think a lot of people give Caleb and Ben Johnson enough credit for what he was able to do from year 1 to year 2. There's been a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of great quarterbacks, that after being hit as many times as Caleb got hit his rookie year, would have had some psychological impact where it would have just rattled him a little bit. When you look at Caleb and what he was able to do and the wild plays, I swear the top 10 plays from last year, 3 of them were Caleb Williams plays, and that just goes to show his mental makeup but then also the brilliance of Ben Johnson and being that quarterback whisperer to making sure that he was able to funnel everything and filter everything for Caleb where he could work within himself. I think when Caleb has this extraordinary gift to ad-lib and run around and do things with his legs, what I saw from Caleb last year was a more structured Caleb, whereas, hey, use your legs when you need to, but get the ball out. When your back foot hits the ground, that ball should be coming out. And I'm so excited to see what 2026 looks for the Chicago Bears, because if Caleb Williams was able to give us the type of play that he was able to give us last year, I mean, the bar was set high by him and the Bears. And so I'm excited to see what happens for them heading into 2026.
Jim, the excitement about what Caleb Williams is going to do next with Ben Johnson and where this team goes, it's a national story. This is not just local. It's a national story. He covers it all the time. Kyle Brandt, obviously a big Bears fan, brings it up a lot, but the genie is out of the bottle, baby.
Yeah, it's out because he has these plays that are just so flashy to end games and where he just comes alive. And I think you just want to see Caleb Williams, become a more polished quarterback where it's not always the flair for the dramatic. Doing the little things, as Mike Tomlin always says, make routine plays routinely. And I think that's going to be the key thing for Caleb Williams. But as for excitement, the guy brings a ton of excitement to every game, especially in the fourth quarter when it matters the most. And I think now everybody just wants to see how consistently he can play for a four-quarter game.
One of the statements that Ben Johnson made earlier in the offseason is that Caleb has played his worst football that he's going to play. And so you talk about the exciting plays that he made, but now he gains that consistency that Ben always envisions for him. He did bring up the 70% completion for the quarterback. And if you don't get it, but you approach it, that's the element of improvement I think Ben has designed for the quarterbacks of the Bears.
All right, coming up next, we'll take a look at some other elements of the Bears offensively and defensively to look forward to here in 2026. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. With Tom Thayer, Jim Miller, Jeff Joniak here on Bears Weekly. Interesting that, the NFL allows 10 OTAs. Ben's going to only use 6 this year. Is that, in your opinions, guys, a nod to staying as healthy as possible?
I just think they accomplished a lot last year in the preseason and in the installation of the offense, the development of Caleb, the whole Dennis Allen getting familiar with his defensive talent, where it's going and what he needed. So I just think there's more familiarity with the coaches and the players that you don't need to go out there and extend time on the feet if you're as a head coach and as an organization, you feel you don't need it.
Yeah, typically the last OTA ends up being a fun day anyway, right? Teams go bowling, paintball, something like that. So, if he's only cutting it down to 6, to me, that's not a big deal. They're getting the install that they need, that they feel is necessary. They're much further along. So it's really just about the new players introducing them to the material offense, defensively, and special teams. And it'll go at a much faster pace than what it did a year ago.
Last season, 9 of their 17 regular season games, they entered the fourth quarter trailing. Ben would like to see that turned around, but yet you still keep that, we got to finish, and if we're trailing, we're going to come back because we know we can. What's the best approach? How will that be conveyed to this football team here as they build up towards the start of training camp and through training camp, Tommy?
Just a faster start within the first couple of drives, trying to get touchdowns out of it and not field goals. When you bring up that number in terms of the fourth quarter, I would like to see where they're at halftime, because the thing that resonates with me is listening to Jason McKee, our sideline reporter, do an interview with Ben Johnson coming out at halftime. And whatever the score was, Ben was 100% confident that they were going to get it turned around in a drive or two. So, yeah, obviously you'd like to have faster starts, and I do think that Caleb is going to be capable of that. But the exciting endings, that's why people listen to you, because they want to hear your voice and the description of the last couple plays or drive.
Go Bears. Yeah, we like hearing Jeff calling them on all that. But there's such a difference when you're playing with a lead compared to playing from behind. I think we saw last year, obviously, the Bears played great when coming from behind, but there is a way to manage a lead. So if you have the lead in a game, say the Bears do, now their pass rush needs to be more involved in the second half of a game. You see what I'm saying? Because if you're playing with the lead and the opponent is playing from behind, they're typically going to be passing the ball a lot more. So the Bears got to get better in those situations that now they can manage playing with the lead. They expect their offense to be able to score points, but now their defense potentially could be utilized in other areas where they really weren't good last year. They got a ton of takeaways. That was the difference defensively. But if you're playing with the lead going into the fourth quarter, now it's about your pass rush, and the game is played differently at that point. And I think that's what Ben Johnson wants to get to, where you're dictating the game rather than playing from behind, kind of scrambling in those moments.
I just looked it up, Tommy. So winning at halftime, they were 6-1. Losing at halftime, they were 5-5. Which is a tremendous number. I mean, you think if you're losing at halftime, I bet that, and I'd have to go through it, I bet that was one of the, if not the most wins at halftime.
Yeah, those are really telling stats. Look at that. When you're playing with the lead, how did they finish? They finished strong. So if they had the lead at halftime, you're dictating. That was my point. But when you're, for them to pull out 5, like you said, in that second number is pretty incredible.
One thing, too, is you go in there and you think about the score going into the locker room. Then you think about the conversation when you got 12 minutes halftime adjustments and the sense of urgency about getting points on the board as quickly as possible, or possibly creating a turnover to get the ball back. So, it changes that narrative a little bit when those guys going into halftime with the lead.
All right, I want to talk about the offense, and in particular, a couple of players. Luther Burden, Rome Odunze. So, have high hopes for both. Obviously, Rome started out strong, was a key target, caught 6 touchdowns early in the season, but just not healthy. So what are your expectations for him in a big third year now for Rome Odunze as a top pick in the draft? And then Luther Burden. How high can he fly, boys?
I'll start this one.
Go ahead.
I'll start that. I think for Rome Odunze, he was leading the Bears in receptions up until he got hurt. I think he's going to lead the Bears again. I think he is an untapped potential. We haven't seen the best that he has to offer. To me, he can do it all. And I'm not saying that Luther Burden and Thomas, because Thomas is going to have a role probably in the slot and do certain things. But I think Odunze is really the big dog here, not only because of his years of experience trumped the other 2 young receivers. To me, he has the most talent of all of them.
Yeah, Rome is an official NFL veteran. And so regardless of, time lost last year due to injury, he's got to come in and, he's got to be one of the alpha males in that receiver room. And I know you have Khalif Raymond. It's about where Rome was picked and what he's got to be able to contribute to that receiver room. And I have high expectations for Ja'Day Walker. When we sat next to him on draft night, he's a big guy, man. He's not a smaller receiver. He's going to go up there and be able to fight DBs for some passes, but I have, high expectations for Rome.
All right, we haven't touched on this much. I was super impressed with the running game last year. I still think there's more there to bite into that apple. How do you guys feel about it, especially with this offensive line, another year together? Yes, there's a new center. We still got to figure out left tackle, but the way those tight ends blocked, the concepts were amazing. Swift and Monangai, the Swift and mighty backfield. What's your expectation?
I think with Monangai, you know what he is now. Last year when he came onto the scene, he was a late-round draft choice, and you kind of had to figure out what he did and, what he did well and how he could contribute. Now you know all that information. He's willing to pick up blitzes. He's good with the ball out of his hands in the passing game, and he's got good interior instincts in reading the run game. So I think the running back position is farther ahead. because you already have an understanding of what not only DeAndre Swift is going to give you, but what Monangai can offer you. And then the rest of the guys are going to be fighting for opportunities. There's a lot of fight in those guys.
I think we'd all like to see the run game better. Certainly Ben Johnson wants to feature it, but it's hard to knock this team. They were the third best rushing team in the league a year ago. So I think that's got to be your standard coming in. You know, you're thinking, hey, minimum, we got to be a top 10, if not a top 5 running team. I think that's got to be the goal, and you don't want it to drop. You need a couple of pieces to come together, like you said, at center, at left tackle, whoever it is, whether it's Braxton Jones or whoever emerges there, the Wills, who they just signed. There's going to be a healthy competition there. And I think by reducing Bradbury, and depending on how Jones does, the young draft pick, who knows, maybe Bradbury's tradable. And they can trade Bradbury and add another piece to the puzzle if they feel that good about Jones just stepping in and rolling from the start.
One thing I wanted to bring up lastly, this is more just a point to make, the route concepts and the separation that Ben Johnson is able to organize and devise along with Press Taylor and the offensive staff. If they get man coverage, the ability to get Luther Burden open by coming across the formation, having clearing routes, and all that space with all that speed. Same with Rome. Same for the young man they just drafted in the 3rd round. Ben's ability to make that happen is causing a lot of conflict problems for the secondary, the opposing secondary. I don't know what the counterpunch is from this year when teams face the Bears, and Ben's just scratching that playbook surface. All right, Tom's thoughts to finish us up coming next on Bears Weekly at ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Bears.
It is good!
Bears Weekly.
Time expires!
A deep dive into all things Bears.
And the Bears win!
With Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, this is the home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago.
Welcome back, everybody. Final segment of Bears Weekly tonight before we hand you off to Cavaliers and Pistons Eastern Conference semifinal basketball here on ESPN 1000. Tom, get at it. Offense won't have many wasted reps. That's your lead off.
This is dedicated to Jim Miller, because I think of when you look at the installation of a new offense last year and you're feeding new information to everybody, there may be a little bit of hesitancy in the decision-making process. Now you look at this offense being installed to 3 veteran quarterbacks. You're going to be able to call a play to any one of those quarterbacks, and they're not going to be going through the thinking process of what they just heard and how to use it once they get to the line of scrimmage. And then think how that benefits all the guys that have from the running game to the offensive line, to the tight end, to the wide receiver. So, Jim, when you have 3 veteran quarterbacks in this offense, you're not going to have any wasted reps out there.
No, they shouldn't. And plus, they should be able to do a lot more, as Tom mentioned, at the line of scrimmage. A lot of kill plays, can plays, package plays. They should be able to get the offense in the best play that takes advantage of the defense. I think they're all very cerebral quarterbacks, and when you can do that, and they've all played and they've been in the system, they should be able to do a lot more. So expand the offense with that experience at quarterback.
Yeah, and Case Keenum, a coach on the field, no question, yep. Coach in the meeting room, and Tyson Bagent learning so much. That's why he likes being here. I know he liked to play, but he likes being here and learning from Ben Johnson. All right. Don't let frustration linger.
The distribution of reps throughout OTAs and training camps. Sometimes if you're a defense, you may go 3 and out. If you're an offensive line and trying to develop conditioning, maybe you'll have 8 straight plays. But if you have a bad play, you can't let it linger the next 2 or 3 plays in your mind. You got to be able to have a play and maybe get beat or, something happens and wash it out and go right back to a positive working mentality immediately. You cannot let frustration linger, especially these guys we talk about in the rookie minicamp and the other guys that are coming aboard for the first time in their competition.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain time, if you're making the same mistake a couple of times, that's the frustrating part of it as a player. That can happen. As Tom mentioned, that can get frustrating. It should bother you when a mistake happens, but you got to put in perspective. All right, these are OTAs. I'm learning. If that happens again, I'm going to do this or X, Y, and Z differently. And if you make the same mistake twice, then there's probably an issue there. But it should frustrate you as a player. But you're more accepting of it in the OTAs, but come training camp, you should be locked and loaded, ready to go. And those mistakes should be behind you. Not that there's not going to be new learning, but the stuff that was covered through the OTAs, you should be mastered come training camp time.
Does Tom Thought 2 lead into Tom Thought 3? Don't be a repeat offender?
Well, so it kind of does, and Jim mentioned it. So frustration is a day-to-day a hurdle that you have to get over, and it's play-to-play, day-to-day. Being a repeat offender is day-to-day, because Dick Stanfeld always used to say, physical mistakes will get you coached, mental mistakes will get you cut. And as Jim said, if you go out there and you're a repeat offender where they installed a play 3 days ago, you ran it 10 times yesterday, and then you're going to run it for the first time today, and you go out there and you have the same mental mistake, that's a thought that goes off immediately in the coach's head going, man, maybe this guy is not learning or not in his playbook or not studying enough. So that's what I'm saying. Don't be a repeat offender in throughout the course of training camp when practices are physical.
And it's funny how coaches harp on it as the play's going on. Hey, we covered that in the meeting when we were watching tape, and they see the mistake happen again, but it's that reaffirmation, you're still coaching, but hey, we covered this, this can't happen again. We talked about it. This is what we need to happen. And there's that on the field coaching that really emphasizes it even more. But as Tom said, when you're in that big auditorium and the tape clicks on a practice and you're talking about the same mistake that was made maybe 3 days ago, that correction was already made, everybody wants to move on. If they see it again, everybody knows in that room what's going on and what they're seeing. There's no mistakes.
Did you guys have, compared to today, I'm assuming you had fewer hours in the meeting room than today's players because they don't have as much time on the field as you guys did. Is that a fair thing or no?
No. And listen, we go to training camp where we have 2 full padded practices, and every single night concludes with a 3-hour meeting.
Okay.
And there's no breaks. There is no raising your hand. There's no, You're there and you're carrying the 600-page binder full of plays.
Okay.
Yeah, there were no iPads back then. We weren't just pushing a button, so.
Did you ever get take a little snooze just for even a second?
Heck no.
I don't recall. I was paranoid the whole time. Weren't you, Tom? I was like, I ain't falling asleep.
Right.
I'm a 6-rounder.
There's that famous story of Jimmy Johnson cutting a player because he saw him snoozing in a meeting, and he called him out right there, brought him out in the hallway, and cut him because of it.
Oh my gosh. I could just think of, the old
Mike Shanahan supposedly had cameras in the rooms, and he'd be in his office, and if he saw a player sleeping, same thing. He'd go down, leave his Denver Broncos office, go down to the room and call the player out. Say, hey, what are you doing sleeping?
It's like North Dallas 40 got, it's a chalkboard, and they take the board eraser and hit him in the head. Chalk goes flying, Yeah, that's what I'm envisioning it was like in the old days. But
greatest underrated movie ever, North Dallas 40.
Oh my gosh, yes. All right, boys, that's going to wrap us up. Nicely done once again. We'll talk to you on Monday of next week. We got an earlier show next week. The executive producer of the Bears Radio Network, Eric Ostrowski. Thanks to Kendra Smith and Jake Lippman in the ESPN studios, and for all of our producers. For Tom Thayer and Jim Miller, I'm Jeff Joniak. This has been Bears Weekly on the radio home of the Chicago Bears, ESPN Chicago. Up next, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, Cleveland and Detroit. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly, hosted by the Mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app, brought to you by Verizon and Apple Podcasts. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Miller Lite.